Hello, Bill's sisters. Cheryl Miller here with your 30 January 2024 edition of Light on Bills, coming at you from my basement. I haven't said that before in case it isn't obvious because it's always so dark down here, which is nice. And you get that warm glow of the monitor on my skin. I think it does me justice. Of course, now I hope that we're streaming in something higher than 380p, maybe 620 or, whatever. Oh, 360, 620, 1280 or whatever. Um, Not important. I have a special show for you today, and that's because we are going to have our first ever guest on Light on Bills outside of my own sisters, outside of my own family, which is an episode that you still haven't seen because I haven't uploaded it yet. But they're the extra special guests because they're family. But everyone's family when you call them sisters. I think that's why I like using the word sister among women, because it's really important for us to remember, that we have this sisterhood, even though we're like having to co-opt masculine pronouns and such all the time. Um, Sisters. I don't even like saying guys anymore. I like to say gals. What if we just substituted guys for gals in every conversation, even with men, just so they can get a little taste of what it feels like to be obliterated from the narrative? Okay, don't get me started. It's still a little early in the program for that. And I don't want to get distracted. There's a few things in my head that's on my list of things to cover. And one of them, so I actually planned this, y'all. I almost said you guys, so I'm not going to say that. Y'all, I'll say y'all. I'll say you gals. I'll say girls. In case you didn't notice, I'm borrowing that phrase from Josh Allen, which I loved from, I think it was our last regular season victory this year when he said, "Love y'all boys, win on three, 1, 2, 3, win." Love y'all boys. I just love that because it's sincere. So I'm co-opting that. Thank you, Josh Allen, once again, and for eternity. Um, Josh Allen, because, you know, um, I wanted to quickly mention that Jenna Cottrell, who is on, there's so many of these that I watch, but I'd really love to get her on the show. She's on that. I'll figure it out later, but she's on one of the preeminent Bills podcasts with two gentlemen, one older gentleman, one younger gentleman, and her. And I for what it is, there's equal time. Okay, there are two guys and one female. Also, I hate that word female. It's like biological females, males. No. We don't say there's two males and one male, two males and one female, do we? We say there's two guys and one female. It's just kind of weird. Two gentlewomen, oh, Freudian slip, two gentlemen and one gentlewoman. Also, the word lady, it's so pejorative. It's just like, ladies' night, lady. Nothing against ladies' night, nothing against Earth, Wind, and Fire, who are my, secular trinity, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I used to say that Von Miller was the fourth element, water, until this whole situation, which I'm still withholding judgment on, except that I will always say believe women. And that was a little bit of the impetus, again, also an impetus for doing this show and calling it Believe Women with the double L. By the way, there's a movie out there, apparently, called Unbelievable. I do want to check it out. It's by a guy who is who's the longtime editor-in-chief of National Lampoon, I think. So this is going to be a serious affair. No, it's all about being a Bills fan, and it's only showing in theaters in upstate and Western New York, but I hope it will stream, and of course it should get some uptake among the mafia at the very least. So I'm throwing that out there. How many times removed from the subject area am I now? So Believe Women, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Ladies' Night, language around gendered language. Jenna Cottrell. Yeah, so she's in that program, and she shared that before Josh was drafted, like literally, I mean, moments before he was drafted into the Buffalo Bills. So this is 2018. If you go online and see her tweet about this, or her, her retweet, because it was actually her and another gentleman who were doing the interview. I like to retweet these things, just because then it's like in my inbox and I can see what I want to talk to you about. So let me just go to my profile and see. Happy birthday, Andre Reed. That was yesterday. Yes. So Kevin Connors first tweeted this, and then Jenna Cottrell retweeted it. And she says, when Mike Catalana and I interviewed Josh Allen before the draft in 2018, we asked him about Buffalo. So this is before anything, y'all. And Allen said, I love Bills Mafia, and they're the best fan base in the NFL. So this was all, oh no, it wasn't off record. She says, Allen laughed and said we should start the interview over again because he didn't know if the Bills would even end up picking him. So coincidence? I think not. But I mean, how awesome is that? So Jenna Cottrell has some serious cred. Also, let's go to her Twitter profile. She is reporter, host for Buffalo Plus. That's the program. And she's the TV sports anchor for 13 WHAM, which I think is in Buffalo. I'm not sure, because, it's so long that I've been outside of, there must be a word for that. Expatriated. Okay, so just that casual and side remark about Destiny and Josh Allen. And I think there was really nothing else, but I would like to get Jenna on here, although she celebrated a birthday yesterday. Happy birthday. And she's celebrating being getting engaged recently. Oh wait, her Twitter says that she's in Rochester, so maybe that's a Rochester station. And so congratulations, Jenna, for those two big announcements. And now, of course, everyone that does this kind of stuff is going dark, including her. I hope she's got some big plans. But it would just be so cool if we could get some of these people into our Light on Bills coverage during the off season, just to make it interesting and to kind of prep us for the new season. Wouldn't that be a cool idea? So let me see what I can do. In the meantime, I'm going to busily be trying to bring Bill's sisters of all walks of life and creeds and origins and backstories into the studio is a big word, at least virtually. So, and that's going to start today, which is why I'm really excited. And more about that later. We haven't decided if we're going to go live or if we're going to record and then go live. But I just also want to get this out there because of the stuff I talked about yesterday, how difficult it is sometimes for women to feel like they can give voice to their thoughts. That I'm happy to do stuff offline first so that there's comfort, so that the person I'm talking to is comfortable about what we've come up with. and then we can put it online. And just a side remark about that, I have lived many lives, my sisters, and and I think that's a good way to live, honestly. Do I have ADHD? I don't know. I am a common thread for ADHD among my children who have different fathers, but they have ADHD. So, many lives, one of which I have alluded to previously, that was living and working in Brussels, also in the Brussels policy bubble, as they call it, in the Brussels bubble. And I had the distinct honor of moderating an event around the Me Too movement. And my very own contributor that day was Asia Argento, who, if you know, is actually her partner was Anthony Bergain. I don't know how the Americans say that, right? The foodie guy, the foodie voyager guy, who passed away strangely, this whole affair. Let's not scrape the surface too much. But it was Asia Argento's first public meeting of any kind after the whole Me Too thing broke. And I had the distinct honor of being the interlocutor for that engagement. Okay. So I'm not here like kind of patting myself on the shoulder, but I do want to say that she gave her presentation, her intervention in her own words about what happened with that whole Me Too thing, which was incredible. You can imagine, maybe it's out there in the interwebs somewhere. I don't know. But it was the first time to hear the story in her own words, with her own voice. Spellbinding. And by the time she was done, she felt comfortable enough to field questions from the audience. And that, again, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I think it had to do with the fact that she felt confident in me moderating, which is, that's what moderation is all about. Moderating. Moderation is about something else. It's a word that I'm not very familiar with. I'm joking. It's like I'm trying. And just another side note on that. So she felt comfortable fielding questions. That was awesome, because imagine how threatening that would be, right? You don't know who's sitting in the audience and what the hell they're going to say. And one of the things that an audience member asked her about, which I will never forget, was, do you remember there was the letter from Catherine Deneuve? Do you remember the ads that Catherine, okay, if you're Gen X, you might remember, right? Latchkey Kids, we went home, we watched it, and there's this, I'm Catherine Deneuve, and I use some kind of hairspray. See, I don't even remember what the hairspray was. I don't remember the brand, but I do remember Catherine Deneuve, okay? And of course, we all were like, who the hell is Catherine Deneuve? We had no idea. Anyway, she actually is iconic, come to find, okay, we were like teenagers or younger at that point that were like, Catherine Deneuve, we just liked mocking her or imitating her voice, which I am enjoying low-key right now again. So Catherine Deneuve wrote a letter during the whole Me Too explosion. You remember that? And she basically said, I love men. I'm an icon in France and I love men. And so an audience member in the European Parliament, in the event that I was moderating with Asia Argento, asked, what about this letter from Catherine Deneuve? And Asia Argento was so amazing. She just said, if that woman had to unpack all the sexism that she's been confronted with, basically all of her own Me Too stuff, she would just lose it. So, this is, like a lot of things that I've been alluding to, it's about internalized misogyny, even also, especially among women. Not especially among women. We all have internalized unconscious bias. We all have internalized misogyny, but it's most like, I can't see it's more pernicious when it's among women because it's just pernicious. But I guess it's more confronting as a woman when you face misogyny from another woman. So Ozzy Argento just answered that so on point. And this is really my modus operandi, as I say. I want to hear those voices. And you're all amazing, and I'm not exaggerating, and I truly believe in us and what we're capable of as women, as sisters, as long as we emphasize that sister part. Speaking of which, my son is destroying stuff right now. So today we will have our first guest, sister, maybe not right in this broadcast, but maybe later in the day. So we'll do 2 editions. Maybe I'll just release it tomorrow. I don't know. And in the meantime, let's get back to the task at hand, which is I have been saving up. It's the 30th of January, making it the official 30th anniversary of the 1994 Bills Super Bowl participation. I would say debut, but no. This was actually the 4th of 4. And I'm going to have to pull up the Wikipedia page. I love that. I love that all this is on Wikipedia now with the logo, etc. Final score, Dallas, back-to-back victories over the Buffalo Bills. Dallas 30, Buffalo Bills 13. And that was it. That was the last Super Bowl appearance that the Bills made. And sisters, I was there. Yes, I was making that, 30 years ago. So I was 27 years of age. I'm going to show you this. So yeah, do the math. And we're going to do an unboxing, which is not something I usually do. As you can see, it was at the Peach Bowl. It wasn't officially called the Peach Bowl, but the Georgia Dome or whatever it was down in, what is all this stuff? Down in Atlanta. And there's some little paper in here. I'm going to have to see what exactly that is. So I got, of course, the Coca-Cola bottles. Wait, dude, there's still the pin. The Coca-Cola bottles, of course, because it is Atlanta, home of Coca-Cola, home of Turner Broadcasting and a lot of other shizzle. And where my twin sister now lives, by the way. So I'm looking forward to getting her on the show. She's like as crazy of a Bills fan as I am. Also the genesis of the Bills sisters, of course. So okay, so I'm proving that I was there, right? Because believe women. It's believe women. It's not like an aspiration, right? Believe women. Oh, it's a letter from the Coca-Cola company. And I could use that to get a job with them. Welcome to Atlanta and Super Bowl XXVIII. So Super Bowl 28. Is anyone else like me? I mean, we've all learned our Roman numerals, but it's always like, is it dyslexia or something where you're like looking at the letters and you're like, those aren't numbers. Apparently that's a thing also with ADHD. I forget what they call it. It's like numerical dyslexia, basically. And For those of us who might have it, that does make math kind of weird, but not something to be ashamed of. And by the way, please stop contributing to that narrative. I'm not good at math. Don't fucking say that. Okay? Because, I mean, I think even Michelle Obama has said that. Like, that makes it so okay for girls not to be good at math. And it's not okay for girls to not, because actually girls are good at math. My daughter is really good at math. She's also really good at chemistry and biology and physics. And just to like, drive it home, my mother wanted to study physics. So I guess there is, perhaps a genetic propensity, perhaps not, because a lot of this is really about what you love. And what's like more exciting than physics and chemistry? Holy crap. My husband is really into math, so power to him. The electricity is going out again. Oh my gosh. Or I hit a cable while I'm trying to rebox this. But yeah, our mom, because this is about the Bill sisters, our mom wanted to study physics, and her dad, my grandpa, who also worked on Oppenheimer, the Manhattan Project. He was a mathematician. He told her that physics is not something for women. So that was the end of that. Later on in her life, my mom went on to study biology. So thank the goddess for that. And hashtag girls in STEM, hashtag women in STEM. It's so horrible that it's become a hashtag, but I genuinely feel that greater participation of girls and women in STEM fields, these traditionally male-dominated fields, is what is going to save the world. And I've been believing this for almost, I guess 14 years now. So I started evangelizing this in 2010 with some volunteer work I was doing that then took on a life of its own. And that's how I got where I am, for what it's worth. So I really genuinely feel that. And I even have one of the first ever, what is it called now? Oh yeah, TEDx. So it's not a TED Talk because, it was again very male dominated in the early years. It was a TEDx, so the spin-off of TED, one of the first ever TEDx talks on this subject, girls and women in STEM, but also portrayal of girls and women in media. Now, is that a subject that I have talked about just in case? Absolutely. Just, general portrayal of girls and women in media is like, I always say there's no silver bullet, but the two silver bullets to improve participation of girls and women in any field, but especially like in leadership, or imagine in sports, or imagine in the NFL, or imagine in the Bills organization, who are like kind of leading the push in this direction. Maybe we should look at that sometime specifically. Greater participation of girls and women in leadership really comes down to two things, in my humble opinion. Not even humble, I'm not being humble. Okay, I'm going to be humble and hungry. In my humble and hungry opinion, comes down to one, let's say, enforced or rewarded increases in paternity care. So, we talk about maternity leave, then we talk about, how about paternity leave as well, or just parental leave if you don't want to be like gender specific. So, but I want to be gender specific. So people who identify as men in the partnership should be rewarded to take time off from their day jobs to spend it caring for their children. Because yeah, raising children is a two-headed job or more, right? It takes a village is what they say, but they don't always say it takes a village of women. That's just kind of implicit, and also where I think, like I said yesterday, women are being exploited. We've got the entire economy on our backs doing that. So there's a lot of to unpack around men playing more of a role in the household and in the care of little people. And why not? Because it's so awesome. It's really great for men. It actually changes the chemistry in their brain. That's the whole what is the chemical? Oh, help me out. The love chemical. It's escaping me. Maybe I need more of it. It'll come to me later. Basically, men's brains become rewired when they care for children, I guess, and babies in particular, and their whole world outlook changes too. So priorities for them shift. Probably for all of us, I don't know. But so it's beneficial to men, it's beneficial to the little people, of course, and it's beneficial to women, because the moment you can kind of inverse these gendered roles, then we can also say, I'm going to work outside the home for money. That's a direct quote from my twin sister, as opposed to inside the home for no money and a loss of opportunity cost, or the opportunity costs related to not being in the workforce and earning what we deserve. So, two things to improve the opportunities for women in the world: more paternity leave rewarded or coerced or enforced or whatever. And the other is better and more portrayal of girls and women in media. So better in the sense of, pick any of the podcasts up until now, right? When we're talking about the doe eyes and the cleavage and that TEDx talk I gave, that was based a lot on the Gina Davis Institute research on gender in media, portrayal of girls and women. Basically, I'm not going to rehash that talk, but I'll put a link to it, because unfortunately, it has not changed in these 12 years since I first gave that talk. Which is really depressing. So better portrayal, that means, having diverse roles for little girls and big girls to look up to that are portrayed by women, and more portrayal overall, because this is also a thing when we talk about silencing or sidelining and marginalizing girls and women. This is exactly the fact. I can't, one of my hugest issues with Hollywood is the old wife dies in the first 5 minutes of the movie. It's the short circuit to, oh, timeout. Mom? Yes, I'm online right now. Do you want to join me? Just to.
That's okay. I was just gonna say, can I go to Boba right now?
Okay. That was my lovely daughter. You can't see her on the camera. Okay. I was going to pause, but okay, fine. I can always edit in post-production and add all of the, photoshopping, because that's a thing right now. It's like you don't even have to do it in post-production. You can do it live with the filters, which I'm not, by the way. As far as I can tell, I don't have my Zoom settings on, a Vaseline lens. Why am I talking about this now? Let's just Oh, yeah. So you don't have to do that in post-production. I don't have to put the Vaseline lens effect on in post-production. We can do it live. Do you see it in these? I mean, even in podcasts, of course, remote coverage when people join the show on camera, that you see how, and it's not only women, it's men too. So, let's talk about that as well. I mean, men who are in front of the camera are actually um, influenced to play down their age or to beautify themselves. So the pressure is everywhere. I mean, I think American society in particular, it's really rough. And wow, like also then people changing their faces. That whole, the nose job, the thing, that kind of started in Korea, I guess, is like um people changing their faces because they're on camera all the time and that's what they see. Like my nose is so big, my eyes are so wrinkly. I need, nip and tuck and nip and tuck. Really interesting, the influence of camera coverage on aesthetics and what we do, that whole industry, which already is nightmarish for women in particular, but now that extends to men, or of course, who also have to be more conscious about their superficial beauty. And on that point, actually, I want to do a health and beauty segment on here. I know it's nuts, but our youngest sister, I'm not going to mention her name because she's not an active Bills Mafia member. Okay. She's not an active Bills fan. In the family chats, she kind of puts up with us. But she's an incredible person and now lives in the boondocks in the Northwest of America, which is very much like Western New York. And her little kids sound like they're from Buffalo, which is really weird because she grew up in Northern Virginia, like not too far from where I'm sitting right now. And okay, her dad was from upstate, is from upstate, and our mom, of course, is from Western New York. So what I'm talking about is uh, my youngest sister's parents are from Western and upstate New York. She was raised in Northern Virginia, but it's her little girls who sound like they're from Western New York. It's crazy. Is like, so we got in a little chat about that in our family thread, like how much of that is genetic, how much of, my sister's accent is influenced by her parents and that she's passing down to her kids. It's really funny. Anyhow, she's very, very health conscious. She's also very do it herself, which I absolutely love. I consider myself pretty do it herself as well. Shout out to one of my very, very besties who's also in the Pacific Northwest of America, who once bequeathed me a a toolbox called Do It Herself that I use all the time, by the way. Maybe we could get them to be a sponsor, Do It Herself. Because why does it have to be football related? We're not only talking about football. And while I'm on that, okay, I'm not going to do this because maybe I should get permission. But as you can see today, so my cold is a little bit better, but mostly, because we're having a guest on. Not really. I did engage in personal hygiene today, and I thought let's pull back the veil because I'm kind of, this side ponytail is kind of a thing now. So I was going to go ahead and put my ponytail in online. I'm thinking this is an identity. So there we go. Probably looks like hell. Do I care? As usual, no, I don't. But my question is like, do you care? So if you come online, you also wear your hair in a side ponytail? Can you? And does it matter? Now, there's a lot going on with the Bills right now, mostly in the Bills organization. Did I say congratulations to Joe Brady for now being our offensive coordinator? Not offensive coordinator, but offensive coordinator. I just love that. He's not offensive. Really, no, he's not at all. He seems like a super nice guy. But also we have a defensive coordinator in the person of Bobby Babbich, who is, I guess, being elevated from linebackers coach. And all I can guess is that he and McDermott have, something going on, something good going on. So this begs the question, what's going to happen with Leslie Frazier, who is interviewing with the Miami Dolphins? Hello. So I want to come back to that in a second. And also that Ken Dorsey has gone to the Browns as offensive coordinator, no, as offensive coordinator. You know, it's like a chess game because, okay, how much of it is the patriarchy? Remember, just bear that in mind. But also, it's just intel at this point. It's like, okay, you have these very offensive-minded teams, and you have Sean McDermott clearly doing something right because trust the process. Our defensive line was beleaguered this year. And this is the question for me is, there was this a bit of discussion now about Leslie Frazier. And maybe it's time for me to just give my 2 cents on that. Because again, I started watching all of the pressers, and when just because I love this team, because that's all there is to it. Need I say more? When I started watching the pressers, I just fell in love with Leslie Frazier. It's like you could throw him the ball and he would catch it, consider it, pause, carefully answer you the answer, the response to whatever thing you'd thrown at him. Very thoughtful, very considerate, a man of great integrity, I think. And I don't mean to be taking away from what I'm saying about him, but I'm actually trying to look for the stats that someone threw out there for us to consider. And that was so I told you I'm now like using 2 Twitter handles. Okay, I found it. So props to David Marcus, who was like chiming in on a Twitter discussion. No, I'm not going to use the word X. I mean, maybe by accident, definitely not by design. David Marcus contributed to a discussion by Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, who said that Leslie Frazier was interviewing with the Dolphins. And David Marcus says, now we're assuming David Marcus is a Dolphins fan, because he says, just a second on my point, it's a good hire for the Dolphins. The Bills have allowed 18.3 points per game or less in 4 of the last 5 seasons with Frazier, and gave the season rankings. 4th in 2023, 2nd and remember that Leslie Frazier was not the DC in 2023. That was actually Sean McDermott, acting DC. Quick question, is acting different from interim? That's like when you get the responsibilities without even a change in title, kind of. But is it more promising? As far as we know, again, Sean McDermott is not going anywhere despite all the chatter, including on the Rich Eisen show. Let me please put a pin in it and come back to that in a second. Okay, so Sean McDermott, acting DC in 2023 when the Bills ranked fourth for Bills defense ranked fourth in points per game allowed. But under Leslie Frazier, they ranked second in 2022, first in 2021, 16th in 2020. So this can be a human resources issue. Second in 2019. So David Marcus, Dolphins fan, rightfully asks, why am I supposed to hate this possible hire? Totally valid question. Also, I love the couching of that question. It's like Americans now are so conditioned to not trigger that our sentences are like this long. So instead of saying, I love this hire, he has to say, why am I supposed to hate this hire? This possible hire? Okay. Oh, I answered because you're a Bills fan? Yeah, we could hate this possible hire if Leslie Frazier goes to the Dolphins. Also, Ken Dorsey, sorry. Ken Dorsey going to the Browns. Why? Because it's about business intelligence, isn't it? So you have these very, O-line powered teams in the AFC who are all busy playing each other just for the ticket to the dance, as Josh said. We at least need to get a ticket to the frickin' dance before we can actually, choose our partner and start throwing down. Which to me would be, let's extend that metaphor. What would it be to go to the Super Bowl and win it? Using that metaphor. So the ticket to the dance is just the ticket to the playoffs. So what's the ticket to the big dance? Is that like homecoming or prom? Yeah. So we're going to prom and then winning prom. Now I had a very, very sexist, extension of that metaphor, which I will try to turn on its head. I'm just going to put a pin in it. Okay, let's not go there. So going to prom and having the time of your life. Oh, I know. With the man of your dreams. Okay, granted, you're only 17 at this point, right? 17, lucky number. Going to prom with the young man of your dreams, your high school crush, which is like everything. And, let's aim low. Smooching. That's a win. That would be like taking home the Super Bowl. So hashtag prom smooch. That will be our coded phrase for winning the Super Bowl. Prom crush smooch. Okay. That would be success for us, right? So not just getting a ticket to the frickin' dance. It's like dancing, having a great time, going to the prom with this same person and smooching. Yeah, winning it all. All right. Ticket to the dance. That's so it's highly competitive just to get the ticket to the dance, right? And the more intel that you can get from opposing teams in your conference, the easier that's going to be in theory. And especially on these big O-line teams like the Dolphins. So, and this has been, I would say, kind of the where the Bills have actually really delivered under Leslie Frazier to have a strong defense. And could Leslie Frazier have engineered the next man up approach that Sean McDermott did this year? Well, look, Sean McDermott only came in fourth in points per game in 2023 compared to second and first under Leslie Frazier the previous two seasons. And that 16th outlier thing, but second in 2029. So, the question is, how much of this can we attribute to whom, right? Because Leslie Frazier was working under Sean McDermott. And then how much will Leslie Frazier take from that to a future role? Well, this is always the if, in inference and speculation stuff. But I suppose if you're the Dolphins, you might gamble on that. And frankly, I really adore Leslie Frazier. Like, I really do. That was a very weird thing that happened last year in the off season, and him just kind of going quiet like that. He's talked about it once, apparently, he's received accolades from Howard, which I believe is where he's an alum. And you can just get that vibe watching his press moments about how much integrity, how much thought, just what a mind he is. And yeah, I could hate this possible hire if the Dolphins take him for a lot of reasons. But all right, this is the nature of the beast. So Leslie Frazier, DC in Miami. And then, Ken Dorsey, offensive coach for the Browns. Don't even get me started on the Browns and the whole Deshaun Watson thing. I have an associate in the DC bubble working on kind of feminist policy, let's say, who is a diehard Browns fan. She's not answering my texts anymore, so, it is what it is. No, I don't think it's personal. I just think she's very busy. That's been a whole very strange situation, but I gotta say, much easier to root for the Browns under Joe Flacco than under Deshaun Watson. In fact, I refuse to root for the Browns under Deshaun Watson and do think it's like a slap in the face. Wrong, very wrong turn of phrase. However accurate to Browns women fans and women fans of the NFL, which also raises the whole Von Miller discussion, about which I think, like the Bills organization, I'm not saying anything. I have my thoughts on that. I will say that his is the only jersey that I own. And I mentioned the, Earth, Wind, and Fire reference. So that was really demoralizing. And, these things are really hard to decipher from a distance, and we shouldn't. It's really wrong. But my default position is to believe women. So needless to say, I have not worn my Von Miller jersey since then. Okay. I didn't really intend to go to, there's the whole discussion now about the new DC in Buffalo. DC as in defensive coordinator, Bobby Babbich. That is to distinguish him from his father, Bob Babbich, who also, had a turn in college football coaching and in NFL football coaching, even with the Bills, if I'm not mistaken. So again, I'm going to try to not say anything about that, except how hard it is for other people to break in if there is, these hierarchies where we're just hiring the son of the son of the son of. Well, unless that works for women and people of color as well. So the daughter of, I really dug myself into a hole here. So I'm going to pivot back to the Peach Bowl, 1994 Super Bowl. Another disappointing loss for the Buffalo Bills. And we were leading at the half, but then our king, your king, my king, I'm looking right at the Twitter page of Derrick Henry, King Henry. But what about King Thurman? Oh, yeah. So he had actually scored a touchdown in the first half of that infamous final fourth fall of Buffalo. And I'm going to pull up that Wikipedia page again, just because I was there. But remember what I said about watching the game live, because it's like too many emotions. And then the whole thing of the event, it was like a huge distraction, right? Everything that was going on there. And by the way, the Judds, Winona Judge and Naomi Judd, Winona Judge is a fucking radical feminist. She's amazing. Go, I think it was maybe her Grammy speech or something. Please watch it. I should find it and share it. And Clint Black, Travis Tritt, and Tanya Tucker were the halftime show. And Tanya Tucker, who's about to be inducted into the Music Hall of Fame, finally, because she freaking deserves it. By the way, my dad was a country and western DJ for, his post-military career. So he most certainly met Tanya back in the day, as well as Johnny Cash, and I don't know about Winona. I don't know about the Judds, but just scrolling through here, what the heck happened? Basically fumbled by our King Thurmond, recovered by Dallas in the third quarter for a touchdown that changed the tide. And in the end, we lost 30-13. Jimmy Johnson was their coach, Michael Irvin. I mean, so all these guys, the talking heads in football, are now, they're now icons. Oh my God. There's so much great trivia on here. Where Terry Bradshaw comes from, Joe Montana, John Elway. These are the only other quarterbacks to start 4 Super Bowls, okay, including Roger Staubach. Terry Bradshaw, Joe Montana, John Elway, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Okay, we really got to move Josh into those numbers. And I was going to say, so that was a conversation on today or yesterday's Rich Eisen show with this guy, I think Andy Breer, his name is, from Sports Illustrated. And they're drawing a parallel with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of, let me see. Let me just pull up their Wikipedia. This era under the Tampa Bay Bucks that I was not here for. Where apparently they were, it was a similar situation as the Bills right now. Like very strong, always a contender, always going to the NFC playoffs, but just not ever breaking through. Yes, the Tony Dungy years. This is what they're making the comparison with. So I don't know, maybe some of our Bill's sisters can chime in about to what these gentlemen are referring, and this is where John Gruden apparently took over and then shit changed, right? Then, well, we know, I mean, I only know in recent history that, of course, Tom Brady took them to the Super Bowl in, what was that, was it 2021? Yes, I should know that is in recent history, but so did John Gruden, and they won the Super Bowl in 2002. So I guess their point was like, is it time to, like, would switching coaches, head coaches, make a difference in Buffalo? I mean, everything else is in motion, if you would forgive the turn of phrase. I just don't know. I really don't know. I would love to know what you think. So, and their point as well was it'd be one thing, but right now out there are Bill Vrabel, Bill Belichick, and is it Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh? I always get them mixed up, and I ain't even gonna check because my sentiments on that. Anyhow, apparently good coaches available. So I think they concluded that it would be dumb to swap out Sean McDermott. And I'm in that camp, honestly. Although I'm willing to entertain thoughts from other people. So let's keep an open mind, an open discussion. Now, to wrap up, however, so a good way to know how the story's going to end is how the story starts. So I started with the story about the NFL's 28th. See, I read the Roman numerals there correctly. 28th Super Bowl. Now it's going to be the 58th Super Bowl. And I can remember that because it takes place in the year when I turned 58. So I'm the same age as the Super Bowl. So I was 27, turning 28 that year, 57, turning 58 this year. Go ahead and start hating on me. This is the point where, women literally walk away from me. Like young women are like, you're how old? Ew. What is that about? I mean, so not only is American culture extremely sexist, but extremely ageist. Maybe even more ageist than sexist, if that's possible. Anyhow, so I was 30 years younger then, and I'm going to show you something super wild that happened. So, and my Uncle Van was calling the game, which was really cool. And my dear, dear friend, who I just referenced, living in the Pacific Northwest, um, who is also a sister. She's not a Bill's sister, alas, although she probably would be just if I asked her. She's rooting for the Seattle Seahawks these days. She's a big Notre Dame fan because that's how her brother and dad got into the football coverage business. But in when I say that, I mean in television production. So both her dad, may he also rest in power in the end zone in the sky. Both her dad and her brother did camera for college football, went on to do pro football, and were doing camera at the Super Bowl in 1994. So my uncle was there, her dad and brother were there, and she and I went to the Super Bowl. My uncle asks me at halftime if I'd like to meet OJ Simpson. I kid you not. Now, this was before, okay? Mind you, the same year. Okay, so this was literally months before the infamous, zoom in on that, the infamous change of direction as far as sentiments in Western New York about OJ Simpson. Y'all, I mean, I remember my brother running around in OJ Simpson underoos, okay? If you're Gen X, you know what I'm talking about. You know about the Catherine Deneuve ad, and you know about freaking underoos. I always wondered why they were only for boys, frankly. And also, there are pictures. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to get into it. But later on, my uncle did, well, it was a regular season game, maybe in the same year, I want to say. So it would have been the 1993 season. So we'll have to do the research on this. I was living in New York City. The Bills were in town to play the Giants and out at the Meadowlands, and I got to ride the team bus. Yes, I met Marv and Jim and the K-Gun offense and Thurman Thomas, who I also got to meet again in London this year, who was responsible for that fumble. Oh, man. I'm sure there are interviews with him online about that, but that would be something to talk about. Poor dude. How about that he settled and lives in Buffalo? I just love this. And Jim Kelly too. And Steve Tasker. I mean, that's talk about the Holy Trinity, right? All guys who I got to meet back in the day. And after that game too, my uncle took me into the locker room. And had I had my wits about me, but there were men in their underwear. My uncle said, ask him a question, post-game interview. And I thought, honestly, my first thought was, it's just a regular season game. Who cares? What are the questions to ask, Also, I was a bit overwhelmed by the men in peeps or men in, oh my gosh. That was a Freudian slip. I was overwhelmed by the men in underoos and, big guys and tiny peeps. So I was like, oh, that's steroids. Oh, no. Okay. But during that game, my uncle also let me put the headset on in the play booth. So there I missed my window, didn't I? I guess you can't run away from your destiny, just like Josh couldn't run away from his destiny. I guess it was always meant to be that I'm like behind the mic talking about the Buffalo Bills and football and everything I love. And about OJ Simpson. So how that all came about was, of course, OJ was doing the sideline coverage. He's been sidelined, hasn't he? And my uncle said, let's go meet him after the game. Or no, go meet him during halftime. So we go to the broadcast trailers. That's what they really were. And OJ has a glove on his right hand and is eating a wing in his other hand. STG. Uncle Van introduced us. He's like putting down the wing, taking off his glove to shake my hand, says, nice to meet you, and then introduces me to Nicole, who's standing there in a gorgeous black fur coat. He says, and this is my wife, Nicole. And in my mind at the time, I'm like, I know you're not married anymore. It was already like an on again, off again thing that all of us, in Western New York knew about. And that was like, a tiny claim to fame is that I did meet OJ and I met Nicole, and he was wearing gloves that fit. which he took off to shake my hand. All right, I'm going to end it there. So 30 years ago today, last Super Bowl appearance for the Buffalo Bills. Little did we know, huh? Well, optimistic as always. Go Bills, sisters. I'm out. See ya.